facing some potentially stressful ATC scenarios.
I've prearranged with the controllers at work to throw us a few curveballs on the way.
Whiskey Echo Delta, you're going to have to hold for a little bit before we can get you into Waterloo for approaches. I'm thinking about doing it at Tito's. If that works for you, you can let me know.
By flying with a controller who's also a pilot.
So is that your buddy?
Yep, that's Luke.
That's cool.
Okay, so this is a really cool opportunity to fly with a controller who's also a pilot. Air traffic controller?
That's right.
What do you like to be called?
Whatever.
Whatever.
Controller is fine.
Okay, cool.
Clear.
So I love the idea that so many pilots are afraid of you guys. It's like, they're us, and they're our friends.
I don't know if it's partly that we're talking to professional pilots as well as amateur pilots. We're not out to get people in trouble. We're not just waiting to write somebody up and violate them. And in fact, most of the time when we probably could, we often don't.
So how are you going to pick up the clearance airborne, right?
Yeah, gonna pick it up airborne.
In a previous episode flying cross-country in the Super Cub with no transponder, I examined flying out of this small uncontrolled airport right beside Canada's busiest controlled airspace. But it was cool to do this follow-up with Steven's unique insights.
A lot of the airports around here, which are close to other bigger, busier airports, the best way to get your clearance is airborne with a VFR departure, if it makes sense. Like obviously if the weather doesn't allow it, then call for your clearance on the ground, but it's more difficult to give a clearance somebody on the ground. Like right now the Pearson is using a 6, so there can be arrivals coming that are descending to 3 overhead. You know, you have to impact the Pearson operation in order to give somebody clearance out of here, so it's just quicker and easier for everybody to depart VFR.
So what is our plan today?
Our plan is we filed IFR and we're going to go over to Waterloo from Burlington. It's a short flight, it's 23 miles, I think it is. I've prearranged with the controllers at work to throw us a few curveballs on the way.
Everybody ready to go?
Ready to go.
Rolling traffic, Whiskey Echo Delta, departing runway 14, will be a right turnout for Waterloo.
Final is clear?
Yeah.
It's going to be somewhat maybe contrived because we're going to try and make a few things happen that either scare pilots or things that happen to pilots that they're maybe uncomfortable with because it's oddball situations.
All right, good RPM and manifold pressure.
I'm expecting we're probably going to get a reroute, which is something that can happen to pilots. I'm thinking we'll probably get a hold somewhere. We'll be delayed for our approach into Waterloo, and then we'll fly a practice approach into Waterloo, and I'm hoping we'll be told to keep our speed up, because I know that's something that some pilots wonder about.
And I want to shout out to the R flying community for helping us brainstorm this concept during pre-production. I think pilots are afraid that they might get in trouble.
Yeah,
that's their
for
big
sure.
fear, and they don't want to say something. Like, I think if anything, they should err on the side of asking or explaining more, right?
Absolutely, yeah. But one of the most important things is not to pretend you understood what you were told to do, because that can really get you in trouble. If I tell you to do something and then you don't, and you acknowledge it and then you don't do it, that can get you into trouble. So for sure, if you're not sure, ask. Even at risk of annoying the controller because you're asking questions.
So your buddy should be on shift now?
Yeah, should be. So let's...
Golf Tango, Golf November, contact Toronto Center now 124.02. See you later. 2402, thanks. Tango, Golf November.
The main thing we're looking for is don't talk too much.
Yeah, I was going to say brevity, right? The guy who keys the mic and just keeps on talking.
That's
like,
right.
Dude.
And telling me all kinds of things I don't need to know. For a VFR pilot, for example, if you're calling up and you want service through Class C or Class B airspace, or you just want flight following wherever you're going, first get the controller's attention with call the controller and say what your registration is. And that's it, and wait for the response.
Toronto Terminal, good evening, Golf Whiskey Echo Delta.
Golf Whiskey Echo Delta, Toronto Terminal, squawk 4354.
4354, Whiskey Echo Delta.
Right, because I got a lot of guys think you want a cold call with a bunch of info. It's like, no, right? Because you might even be on the phone or something, right?
That's right.
So you can't
I could be talking to another controller. I could be on the phone issuing a clearance to a pilot on the ground somewhere. There's all kinds of things that we're doing as well as talking on the frequency.
Golf Whiskey Echo Delta, your radar identified 2,700 VFR, not above 3,000, flying 240.
Not above 3, heading 240, Whiskey Echo Delta.
So is that your buddy?
Yep, that's Luke.
That's cool.
And then once you do get the controller's attention, the things that you really want to say is, where are you right now? And what do you want to do?
Whiskey Echo Delta, I have your IFR clearance. You can let me know when you're ready to copy.
Ready to copy, Whiskey Echo Delta.
Up Whiskey Echo Delta, you're now clear to the Burlington Airport via present position. Radar vectors, Waterloo Airport, and then direct. Climb 5,000. Stay on your present heading.
Whiskey Echo Delta is cleared to Burlington via radar vectors to Waterloo and direct. Maintain 5,000 feet, heading 240.
Whiskey Echo Delta, read back correct. The altimeter Waterloo 3007.
3007, Whiskey Echo Delta.
So is that as filed, or did you change it?
Yeah, that was as filed. I'm expecting we'll get a reroute at some point.
And sure enough, after cruising for a few minutes,
Whiskey Echo Delta, you're going to have to hold for a little bit before we can get you into Waterloo for approaches. I'm thinking about doing it at Tito's. If that works for you, you can let me know.
Yeah, that'd be fine, Whiskey Echo Delta.
Hey, Whiskey Echo Delta, next controller's going to have your clearance for you. Contact them now, 128.27. Have a good day.
2827, Whiskey Echo Delta. Alright, out of 4 for 5. Toronto Terminal, Whiskey Echo Delta with you, 4,000 for 5,000, heading 240.
Whiskey Echo Delta, roger. Go direct to Tito's so you can hold 90 direction within, I'd say 8 DME, and expect further at 2300.
and Stephen confirmed the 5,000 foot altitude for the hold during the readback. I also want to thank Chuck from CloudAhoy for rendering these visuals to debrief in this video.
So we're flying straight to it, and then he said to hold within 8 DME of it. I'm confused about how you read the DME.
Well,
Whiskey Echo Delta, VFR traffic, 12 o'clock, 4 miles northbound, 3,400 feet unverified.
Whiskey Echo Delta's looking.
Yeah, we're flying right into the sun. We're not going to see him. I think that might be him right there. Does that make sense? Minus 16 below?
Yep, that makes sense.
That's cool. We're using the Stratus to help us out when we can't see a damn thing in front of us.
And yes, I forgot to update my charts before this flight, but I wasn't PIC.
I love that we got that traffic advisory at a time when we could not have seen it.
Yeah.
And the Stratus also backed it up, you know, like that's another reason why being in the system is great, even if you're not IFR, you know, just getting VFR flight following. A lot of guys are afraid to get VFR flight following because they feel like they're asking for trouble if they're in the system.
Right.
My feeling is it's better to be in the system. If they can accommodate you, they'd probably rather you be in the system too.
Absolutely we would, because it's much easier to manage traffic, like for when he passed traffic to us. If the controller's talking to the other airplane, well now I know what both of them is doing. I can solve the problem much easier than if it's somebody I'm not talking to, because the controller has no way of knowing if that airplane is suddenly going to climb, turn, descend, whatever. And so you might think, okay, they're never going to come anywhere near each other, and all of a sudden the airplane turns and climbs, and now they try to come together.
Right, yeah, exactly. So when you can tell one guy, you got traffic, and they tell the other guy, you got traffic, and then either one is going to do something unpredictable. Yeah. Problem is if one, he's like, I got a target, he's unverified, and he's currently going west, and then you get that traffic advisory, and then suddenly he turns on you because it's a guy doing air work. Yeah, so, because if a guy's going to go do air work, I've heard some people say they don't like to get flight following because they feel like it's going to annoy the controller. But wouldn't you rather a guy say, I'm going to do air work, and I'm going to be doing circles or whatever? You'd rather know that, right?
Yeah, for sure. All right, we're entering our hold. Your drop entry.
And when he said 8 DME, what was he talking about? Like, I always thought you measured DME from the station, but...
Yeah, I mean, actual DME is, of course, distance measuring equipment, which would usually be on a VOR or a standalone DME. But it is also, I guess we use it as a generic term for getting distance from something. So even though I'm using GPS, and there is, of course, no such thing as DME from Tito's.
653, contact
tower 194.
Okay, because that would have confused me. I kind of understand all this stuff, but I would have been like, what do you mean 8 DME? There's no DME there?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I get it now. All right, so that's just a standard term. Instead of saying 8 miles from the waypoint.
I would say probably most correctly, you would say hold within 8 miles of Tito's. Rather than say DME, but I think it's a habit that's hard to break. You're used to saying...
Because you would have normally put them on a station that was a DME or some sort of distance measuring thing. How many DMEs are left now? They're all getting phased out, right?
Yeah, there's still... I mean, there's some that are associated with Finstern approaches.
And he said to expect further clearance at 7 o'clock. Do you think he's really going to make it hold?
No.
He just said if you don't get it by then. So if we had a comm failure...
If we had a comm failure, we'd have to fly this hold until 2300, and then we would have to fly over Waterloo and then fly back to Burlington. Well, it also says if you are in VMC conditions and you can continue VFR, then so that's really what we would do.
Then you just turn into Nordo and you would squawk 7700?
76 is comm failure.
I got that wrong. 77 is an emergency, right?
77 is emergency, yeah. So
don't squawk 75 or you'll get shot down.
Yeah, so you'd squawk 7600 for a mile from the fix.
Yes.
So I'll go around once here. 4 miles, and I'll say, hey, if you can accommodate us for an approach into Waterloo, we'll do that. So you know what, I'll get the RNAV 8 approach plate. I don't want to miss my turn here at Tito's. We're half a mile from Tito's. Oh, you know what, we should also get the Waterloo ATC as well.
Arriving and departing runway 08. Inform ATC that you have information Mike.
Whiskey Echo Delta can accommodate a hold or an approach at Waterloo now if you wish.
All right, yeah, as we turn back inbound, I can take the RNAV 8 for Waterloo. A little bit of rain.
Whiskey Echo Delta, okay. As you turn inbound, go direct to Duper, and you've cleared the RNAV 08 approach.
All right, thanks. So when turning inbound, we'll go direct Duper and clear the RNAV 08 at Waterloo. Whiskey Echo Delta.
Whiskey Echo Delta, roger. And where to next?
You know what? Tell you what, Tom, I'll cancel IFR now and alerting as well. And after the approach, we'll be going back to Burlington.
Okay, I checked that. Your flight plan's closed, and that's super. You can call the tower on 26-0.
Will do.
Cool.
There's no reason to be in his way.
Yeah.
We sort of achieved what we wanted to, so we can do the rest of VFR. It won't really make any difference. Let me just finish getting the ATIS here.
500 overcast, temperature 11, dew point -2, altimeter 3007. Approach, RNAV, runway 08. Arriving and departing, runway 08. Inform ATC that you have information Mike.
All right, we got Mike. All right, so brief the approach as we go inbound. So we're going to go to Tito's and then to Duper. We have the ATIS, Mike. I've got tower on standby here. We're still in center. We're going to call the tower at Duper. We're not going to need ground because we're just going to do probably a touch and go if they can accommodate, otherwise we'll overshoot. So out here in this quadrant, we're safe to 3,200 feet. It'll be an LPV approach, so we'll follow the glide slope down. We're expecting to cross the final approach fix at 2,700 feet, and our decision altitude is 1,300 feet. It's 1,293, so 1,300 feet. Missed approach is climb to 3,200 feet on a track of 075 to the AirTIV fix where we would hold. Are we keeping our speed up? Are we going to do that?
Want to pretend they told us to?
We could pretend they told us to.
Certainly if you get told to keep the speed up, if you don't feel that it's safe for you to do so, tell the controller, the best I can do is this. And if, maybe that means you get pulled out and other airplanes go in first and you have to wait, well, so be it.
My normal procedure is, if I'm going to do normal speed, what I aim to do is drop the gear as I start as I intercept the glide slope. That helps me slow down and it helps, manage the speed and initiate that descent. But to get the gear down, I got to be 132 knots or less.
Right.
And then usually once the gear comes down, it's like speed breaks. You start slowing down.
Yeah. I mean, since we canceled, I guess that might confuse people if we come in like a rocket.
Yeah.
So maybe we should just do a normal one.
All right. We'll do it normally here.
To me, it really depends on the weather conditions. If I'm flying an approach somewhere and I'm not expecting to be in visual conditions until inside the final approach fix, I'm not going to be wanting to keep the speed up maybe as much as a controller would want, because I want a stable approach.
And with the Mooney, like if I'm going to keep the speed up, when you start descent with the airplane clean, like I've got my power way back right now.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
we're indicating 145 with a power way back.
Fast airplane.
Yeah. Some controllers are pilots, but a lot of controllers are not pilots. And even if you are talking to somebody who is a pilot, they don't necessarily know your airplane, what your airplane's capabilities are, or what your capabilities are. Because just because this airplane can do something doesn't mean the pilot is also comfortable doing certain things.
Waterloo Tower, good evening. Mooney Golf Whiskey Echo Delta with Mike.
Golf Whiskey Echo Delta, Waterloo Tower, good evening. Squawk Cadet, say request.
Here's the ident. We're just crossing Duper on the simulated now, RNAV 08. If it works out, a touch and go, and then we'll be VFR back to Burlington.
Whiskey Echo Delta identified, cleared straight in approach, runway 08.
Cleared straight in 08, Whiskey Echo Delta.
If it's a day like today and I'm going in somewhere and I'm flying an approach and they say keep the speed up, well, yeah, no problem, because I know that I'm going to see the airport well back, and I'll have that time to slow down and get configured in visual conditions where I can see what's going on.
It's one way to know it's coming down is you can feel it, eh?
Yeah, you definitely can. So I got a green light there that says gear down, and we got gear down there.
And it really does come down to how frequently you're flying and how current you are with, for example, if you're flying IFR, when was the last time you flew an instrument approach in actual instrument conditions? it's not the same as doing it in visual conditions. So if you're not feeling sharp, or maybe you just didn't sleep well the night before, I mean, that can affect what your personal minimums are.
So should we go sterile, or do you want to talk about the scenario if we were asked to keep our speed up, what the pitfalls are or whatever?
Yeah, like in weather like this, it wouldn't be difficult because I can already see the airport, so I can go fast until then close and then, level off, pull power back, get the speed down, drop the gear, get the flaps down. It's no problem. But if we were still in cloud right now,
well, it just means everything is going to happen faster.
Yeah.
You're not stable, because then you are going to have to suddenly change your configuration, get slow, and you may not have the runway in sight. That's asking a lot.
That's right. And you certainly don't want to be making major configuration changes that require huge changes in trim. Like when the gear goes down, you got to really retrim the airplane a lot.
Right.
And actually now I'm at a good speed for flaps, so I'm going to put down some approach flaps here. And we're coming up to the FAF, so that's a good time for it.
And you're working with that little yellow thing as your glide slope?
Yeah, that's the glide slope, and the final approach course is in the middle.
Yeah.
So I got everything locked on right now.
That's slave to the GPS? Or
yeah, this is, we're on LPV approach, so this right now is GPS information. If we were doing an ILS, the box would automatically switch to sending this localizer and glide slope information.
Gotcha.
And Whiskey Echo Delta is by ICMED.
Whiskey Echo Delta, number 1, runway 08.
Whiskey Echo Delta. All right, so our minimums here are 1,300 feet.
Cool.
So if you can actually look out the window for me, I'm going to do this just on instruments.
Okay, yep.
So you can watch your traffic for me?
Affirmative. I was going to screen grab on your iPad real quick. Because mine is not georeferencing, because I didn't update my charts.
Ah, I see.
Whiskey Echo Delta, tower wind 100 at 5, clear touch and go runway 08.
Clear touch and go 08, Whiskey Echo Delta. About 2.5 miles final. We're still like 100 knots. My final approach speed is 70, but it won't take me too much space to get to that.
So you're still on instruments?
Yep. Going to 1,300 feet.
Right.
So we're 200 feet above minimums.
And now that we were short final with Steven actually on instruments, we went sterile cockpit for the rest of the approach.
Power reduction here.
We're 100 feet above minimums, so 14 for 13.
Alright. I'm a little bit below slope here. And there's minimums, and there's the runway. I'm going to go full flap here, and I'm going to slow to 70.
And thanks again to the supporters on Patreon for making productions like this possible. And thanks to the sponsors, we've got Aviation's greatest monthly contest. We're literally giving away thousands of dollars worth of stuff each month, and I'm super stoked to be able to give this stuff away to you guys. Just visit flightchops.com for your chance to win. And an easy way that you can really help the channel is by pressing like on the videos. And as always, keep your flight chops sharp.
Okay, flaps up.
Yep. And
take off.
Do the take. There we go, right there, and then cowl flaps up, and I'll get that. Here we go.
I guess that's the reason why gear and flaps are really far away from each other, the switches, right?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.